This episode contains explicit descriptions of graphic sexual materials found in public school libraries and curriculums. Listener discretion is advised.
February 2022. Texan Tara Petsch is on her way to her local school board meeting tonight, shocked that the problem is here too. She and her husband and 4 kids moved here from the Houston area to escape this kind of filth in schools. Tara, a former teacher, thought that was just in the big crazy cities or on the evening national news, not here in the quaint hill country town of Fredericksburg. Sure, part of the problem was the sexually explicit materials in the kids section at the school libraries. Tara looked through them herself. No, they weren't just some biology textbooks with anatomy pictures that might upset a curmudgeon-y old grandma. These were books that graphically depicted pedophiles molesting kids, date rape scenes, oral sex between minors, and much more. It's the kind of erotica you certainly can't print in a newspaper or show on TV, and you'd be arrested if you peddled them to a child on the street. Yet the middle and elementary schools were handing the books to kids as young as 10. But Tara also knew the bigger problem is the destructive ideologies. Curricula and books that expose and promote hazardous sexual behavior to kids, confuse them about their biological identity, and even teach them that some people should be punished or promoted because of their skin color. She watched the news and saw the infection spreading in other schools across the state and nation. Well, Tara finally found it here. And like many Texas parents are discovering, it's everywhere in the statewide school system. This is episode 3 of Exposed, Season 2.
Tonight, parents in KDISD read aloud passages from books that are too graphic to air on local television.
It is straight up porn.
Every year, Austin ISD celebrates Pride Week. This week, the celebration became an even bigger priority. KVUE's Pamela Cohn tells us how, despite pushback from state leaders, AISD stands firm against criticisms of Pride Week activities.
This is what we're asking our children to read. She shaves her smooth, and it glows like the inside of a conch shell. She loves wearing a harness. You suck her off that way, and she comes like it's real, and lifting off the mattress.
My name is Blackberry. I'm a bearded drag queen. That means I'm a lady with lots of facial hair. Do you want to touch my hair? No?
This program is geared towards kids 10 years old and younger.
I just want to expose them to things they don't get to see every day and want it to become the more normal and more accepted.
I knew the dangers of raising kids in a digital world and all the sexual and pornographic content, but finding out the content of the books in my kids' school has been a big slap in the face.
It's in the major cities, it's in the small towns, it's in the suburban districts, it's in the rural districts. Across Texas, parents of all backgrounds are discovering their children's school materials and all testifying a common message: explicit and destructive. The library books are just part of it. Tara told her story to Texas Scorecard senior journalist Aaron Anderson, and it's one that's similar to countless throughout Texas.
There's been lots of lies told in our local newspaper that I'm some sort of activist that has been doing this in Houston and everything, and that's just not the truth. The first library that I ever searched for books was at the beginning of February. It was my son's middle school. And so I found these books and I was like, okay, these need to go, but we need to get them out. And I was immediately told, well, you have to fill out this form, or you have to talk to this person, and they were scrambling because there was no form created. There was no book review committee created. But I was like, listen, I have the excerpts and I'm showing you what is in these books. Why do I have to be bogged down in paperwork to get these books out of my child's school when I'm showing you that it's showing children having sex, adults and children having sex, violent rape scenes, incest, a dentist molesting a child in the chair while she's getting her teeth cleaned. I mean, why do we have to go through this lengthy process to get these books out when if a child brought in pornography or Hustler magazine, I mean, those would be immediately removed. Imagine if a teacher had that. I mean, immediate removal. We have laws about obscenity. Why are we not following those same laws? So I decided to forego the process of filling out forms and paperwork. And I just began taking pictures of the excerpts of these books and just directly sending them to our school board members and our FISD administrators. I wanted them to have those passages in their email box so they could see and believe that this is actually there and it's actually happened. And if they didn't do anything about it, then that's on them, but they are aware that it was there. And I think that's the first point where they kind of started taking us seriously.
These are not nonfiction sex education books. These pose no direct educational use.
Tara testified to the school board in February.
These are books that should be in an adult section of Barnes & Noble, but unfortunately they're in our library. We're also told that removing these pornographic books could be deemed as limiting a child's First Amendment right, and I can assure you that the law is on your side, and access to pornography is not a child's First Amendment right.
But it's not just the explicit school library books, it's the curricula. Public school districts are also promoting hazardous sexual behaviors to kids and teaching them trans ideology, the idea that you can turn into whatever biological sex you feel like. My colleague Erin Anderson helped uncover more.
A 2021 investigative documentary called The Mind Polluters revealed not only some of the graphic sex education lessons presented to kids, with materials, quote, so heinous they're illegal everywhere except in the classroom, but also documented the origins and damaging effects of the explicit comprehensive sex education and brain rewiring social-emotional learning that are infiltrating the public education systems in Texas and across the country. The curriculums are in Texas schools because of a loophole in the state's so-called obscenity exemption law that allows officials to expose otherwise illegal sexually explicit materials to minors in public schools for quote-unquote educational purposes. One of the film's featured guests, Monica Klein, who's a Texas-based former Title X training manager and volunteer educator for Planned Parenthood, taught the comprehensive sex education curriculums to adolescents for a decade and said the objective was, quote, not just talking about the biology of things, but teaching kids about sex activity, assuming they're going to be sexually active.
I wasn't trained to teach abstinence,
Monica says in the film.
I was trained to teach kids how to have sex, where to go to get tested for STDs, and where to get the inevitable abortions.
Texas Scorecard Capitol correspondent Sydney Henry describes even more.
Vivid examples include Austin Independent School District, whose sex ed curriculum included role-playing scenarios for students that involve anal sex, oral sex, and a situation where an underage girl has a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old that she hides from her parents. The district also hosts an annual Pride Week, which promotes LGBT sexual conduct to school children as young as 4. Lesson plans in 2022 included coming out and pronoun days for middle schoolers, trans and non-binary teachings for kindergartners, and community circles, teacher-led conversations with kids about LGBT behaviors, where children as young as 4 were instructed to not repeat anything from the discussions. District officials later tried to walk back the instruction after the plans went viral online. Austin ISD even finished off the week with a district-wide Pride Party for kids, featuring scantily clad drag queen performances, Pride paraphernalia, including pronoun buttons, and LGBT organization booths promoting even more deviant sexual behavior and gender confusion instruction in children's school materials. Additionally, as a consequence of the LGBT ideological curriculums, public school districts in Texas are now experimenting with free-for-all locker room policies that allow boys into girls' private facilities. If that weren't enough, Texas public school districts are also getting caught teaching quote-unquote social justice and critical race theory to kids, the hotly contentious ideology that states some individuals should be punished or promoted because of their skin color. North Texas Carroll Independent School District made national news when parents uncovered their controversial proposed Cultural Competence Action Plan, a comprehensive district-wide system that mandated instruction on quote-unquote equity and enforced a systemic process for consistently tracking and reporting microaggressions and incidents of discrimination, which, as explained in their document, empowers them to punish students who disagree with LGBT sexual behaviors.
What are some of the consequences of these school curricula? Outside the classroom, the LGBT ideology is wreaking havoc on children and adults across the state. Look no further than the severely high risk of serious diseases with homosexual sex, or the internationally known case of 9-year-old Dallas area boy James Younger, whose mother told him he was a girl and wanted to force him, against his father's wishes, to take sterilizing cross-sex hormone drugs and eventually get castrated. On top of that, a growing number of kids and adolescents in Texas are being persuaded to mutilate their bodies to pretend to be the opposite sex, including girls cutting off their healthy breasts to appear more as a male, and both girls and boys chemically or surgically mutilating their genitalia. Meanwhile, countless kids in Texas public schools aren't learning how to proficiently read, write, and do math. Again, Texas finished 42nd of 50 states in overall education performance on the 2021 Quality Counts report card. Countless parents, like Houston area Waller ISD dad Josh Posey, summarized that the current government school monopoly system is flawed, far too costly, full of filth, and failing at real education.
Something is out of balance here. Look at the books. These are shocking. But look at what else is going on around us. Our test scores are failing. Our education system here in the county is not doing so well. And we're being taxed like we're a ginormous district. We won't be able to support ourselves, or we won't be able to live in our community because the taxes will be so high and the education's already terrible. And eventually we're just going to fall off the cliff.
The Exposed podcast is a production of Texas Scorecard. Texas Scorecard is the leading news outlet for Texas politics. Go to texasscorecard.com today. This episode was written and hosted by Jacob Asmussen, audio production and direction by Drew Cook, and sound engineering by Luke Marshall.